heard that we had a presidential election in Poland just a couple of months ago, and it's done. There was many problems during the COVID-19 outbreak, many ways of doing or trying to do properly this election, but it's over. And for now, after the second round, Mr. Andrzej Duda won with Rafał Trzaskowski with the result 51.03% for Mr. Duda to 48.97% for Mr. Trzaskowski. So it's just a little more than 400,000 valid votes. And I was wondering, how much effort would it take to change the result, hypothetically? And could you elaborate on that, if you remember all the gear you could use back when you were working for Cambridge Analytica?
Yeah, so I think what's important to sort of understand, which is, I think, what you were getting at about elections, is they are zero-sum games. So, unlike when two companies are competing, and where, if one company expands their market share by 2%, they get 2% more revenue. In an election, if you get 1%, 2% more than your opponent, you win 100%.
Exactly.
You become president, you become a member of Congress, you become a member of parliament.
You have it all.
And what's really critical, in that situation, is that very small numbers of people can have very profound impacts on the outcome of that event. And so when you look at the case of Cambridge Analytica, when it was set up, it was originally looking for finding that extra 1, 2, 3% of people who otherwise would not be engaging, in that election. And so, is it possible to alter the course of an election? Yeah, completely. And the suite of tools that Cambridge Analytica ended up developing were essentially profiling algorithms that would help a campaign or an organization identify who actually would make up that extra 1 or 2%, and what are the things that would engage them the most in order to show up and actually participate.
And for a company which is not, or were not based in Poland, so the company has to learn about the market voters, how much data you would have to collect about the polls to actually find the correct group to target your ads or clips or apps, anything you used back then on Facebook?
So I guess it sort of depends. By polls, you mean people in Poland?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought just to clarify there.
Of course, yeah. People of Poland. Yep.
The people of Poland.
Yes.
Polish people.
Yes.
What the way sort of Cambridge Analytica worked, and actually how a lot of micro-targeting works more broadly in the political sphere, is you first create an underlying data set where you harvest as much data on individual people that you can possibly sort of get a hold of. And you'd be surprised at how oftentimes available personal data is about people. Every time you use a credit card, every time you sign up to a subscription, every time you use a social media account, you are producing volumes of data about yourself. And oftentimes that data can be packaged and then sold on or passed on, whether lawfully or not, to businesses that want to use that data to track you and follow you, and oftentimes influence your decisions, whether that's in a consumer context with targeted advertising, or that's in a political context with targeted campaign messaging. Once you have an underlying data set, and in Cambridge Analytica's case, Facebook made it very simple to acquire that data set. It was as simple as building a relatively straightforward Facebook app that harvested not only the data of the people using the app, but also all of the data of the Facebook friends of those people. So it scaled really quickly. And from that, you would then build an algorithm that would then look for positive relationships between the underlying data that you've collected and the particular type of person that you're looking for. So in Cambridge Analytica's case, they were often looking for people who would be more prone to conspiratorial thinking, who are more neurotic, and who were more likely to engage in more radicalized thinking. How does Facebook data allow you to do that? When you think about all of the pieces of information that you put out on Facebook or other social platforms, you're giving lots of little tiny clues that sort of begin to paint a picture of who you are. If you think about data like pixels on a screen, one pixel doesn't, give you a portrait of a person, but if you put enough pixels together, you create a picture, a photo that looks like that person. And it may not be a perfect representation of that person, but it gets you close enough to giving you an idea of who that person is. When people, for example, go out on a date, what are the questions that you ask somebody, right? What kind of music do you like? What kind of shows do you do? Do you watch? What do you do as your job? Who do you hang out with on the weekends? What you're doing in that circumstance is asking questions that allow you to that allow you to create a sort of a picture of that person in your mind. And all of that data is available also on Facebook. So all the algorithm does is it interrogates that information and builds a picture of who this person may be. And if this person matches the profile that algorithm is looking for, they get moved into a classification or a category that then is used to target that person with advertising or in invitations to join groups. And once you sort of have that target universe of people, you can then actually go and specifically engage them with content that you already know is more likely to actually motivate them to do something.